Hi, this is Chaplain Paul. This is going to my elected officials. I'm going to make this short and sweet. Why do patients have a civil right to have somebody be by their side when they're confined to a uh, long-term care facility or hospital or group home or medical rehab, assisted living? Why? Why do they have a civil right to have somebody be by their side? This is why. Because in the United States, on average, there's over 400,000 deaths in hospitals alone because of preventable medical mistakes and errors. Okay, 400,000. That's over 1,100 a day. People dying unnecessarily because of a medical mistake that was preventable. That's that's the first reason why we have a civil right to have somebody who loves us be by our side. Okay, it's critical because they're there to prevent medical mistakes. They're there to prevent errors. They're there to prevent neglect, abuse, and mistreatment. They're there to provide the extra added care that's needed because the staff can't do it. If you're paralyzed, you can't move your arms. The difference can be waiting 10 seconds for a cup of water, waiting an hour for a cup of water. Okay. Waiting 20, 30 minutes to be changed to waiting 6 and 7 hours to be changed. Uh, you know, Making sure that they're receiving the love and care, compassion, kindness that we all need in order to have a fighting chance for survival. That is not only a civil right, that's a patient's right, and that is a human right. So here's the deal: any elected official who refused to defend our civil rights during the lockdowns, vaccine mandates, and the mask mandates needs to resign. You broke your oath of office. You need to resign. You took an oath to defend our constitutional rights and our civil rights. Does the oath mean anything? Do you just raise your hand and say an oath and there's no consequences when the oath is broken? Now, I was under the impression that there's $100,000 fine for that and possible jail time. Okay, it's serious business. Millions of long-term care patients died all alone in isolation, including patients that I dearly loved. Patients that I loved, and you want to know their names? Greg, paralyzed from the neck down, the nicest guy you can meet in your life. I write books. I write children's stories. Fumba the Elephant. It's a series of books. I incorporate the patients when I cultivate a relationship with the patients, I incorporate them into my stories and books and writings as a way to lift them up. I went in the room one day and I said, every time I walk in the room, you know what he says? He says, "How's Paul doing? How's your family?" Okay, here's a man that is paralyzed from the neck down, asking me how my family is. I loved Greg. Okay, I could start crying right now. He died all alone in isolation, denied his civil right to have his chaplain and his family members and loved ones get in there to help give him the encouragement and love and support and protection that man not only deserved, but has a civil right to have. Okay, and what did you all do? Nothing. 90% of our elected officials did absolutely nothing. Okay, so now well, we're getting back to Greg. Okay. So I went in the room one day and I said, Greg, because I read some of the Fumba stories to him and Chaplain America stories. And I said, if you were an animal, what would you like to be? And he said, a turtle. And I was thinking more like a land turtle. He said, no, 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 a sea turtle. And that's what he looked like. Laying in the bed, he looked like a sea turtle. So I made Greg the humble sea turtle. Okay. That's what I made him. And my friend died all alone in isolation, denied his civil right to have his chaplain be by his side, to hold his hand and pray for him and cheer him up and protect him. Because that's what I do. I protect the patients. Okay. While I'm in the room, you're not going to be talked to disrespectfully. You're not going to wait hours to be changed. You're not going to have to wait for water or anything else because I'll go get it for you. All right. So let's be real here. Okay. It's absolutely disgraceful what happened. There needs to be public hearings, and our elected officials and these facilities and these owners and these staff people need to be held accountable, fined, and if necessary, thrown in jail. Okay, we're talking millions of long-term care patients died in isolation, denied their civil right, their patient's right, and their constitutional rights, their civil rights, their patient's rights, and their human rights. Okay, were denied. And why is it I'm the only one talking about this? Okay, you took an oath, you broke the oath. Time to pay up. All right, let's talk about Lori, that I love dearly. Okay, falls out of bed, wanted to have an evaluation to go to the hospital, was denied until her daughter got there and demanded that her mother go to an evaluation to make sure she doesn't have any fractures. Did they send her over to the hospital? This woman I love dearly, she reminded me of my grandmother. Okay, and what happened? All right, I was only allowed to visit her in the hospital. All right, only allowed to go visit her in the hospital. Why? Because thanks to Representative Wynn, okay, he crafted legislation 2575 that allows all non-staff members of clergy to be in hospitals. And thank God I was allowed in. I'm not allowed into the facility where I go in for 14 years, but I was allowed in the hospital thanks to Representative Wynn. Okay, that man deserves to be treated better. Okay, that man is looking out for the safety and well-being of long-term care patients and people that are suffering dearly, and he needs to be treated better by not only the Democrats but by his own party. Okay, so let's get on the stick here. There is no long-term care caucus bipartisan. There is no long-term care joint legislative meeting bipartisan. There is no long-term care task force that goes into these places nights and weekends to ensure that there's enough staff and the patients are being cared for properly. There is no staff to patient ratio that's more humane. 2 RNs, 4 CNAs per 30 to 35 patients, mandated and heavily enforced. All right. So that's my time. I was told by a very good friend to only keep it under 7 minutes. So we're just over 7 minutes. I pray, Lord, that all our elected officials will be able to see others, see the world around them, see these patients and family members through the eyes of Christ, and be able to love others as you love us, Lord. This is my prayer. And I pray more is done to help these poor, suffering people. Go in, go into these places and just look around. Ask yourself, is that the way you would want to be treated? Your children, your mother, your father? This is the way you want them to be treated when it's their turn? You're in a position to do something now. You're not going to be in office very long. I'll tell you that right now. Okay, a couple of years, you're gone. So you have a small window of opportunity to work together and begin to at least make our long-term care system more humane, more tolerable, humane, loving, and caring and compassionate. And thank you for your time. God bless you all. And remember, Jesus loves you, and so do I.